the big news of the day after last night's debacle in Tampa, where the Giants just looked like they could do nothing right, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And I don't know if it's Daniel Jones, the offensive line, the receivers, the running backs. Also has, something to do with the fact that the Buccaneers are pretty good on defense. But it was abysmal. It was a disaster. And today, Jason Garrett, former Cowboys coach, fired as the offensive coordinator of the New York Giants. I think a lot more needs to happen. I don't dispute the necessity of this move, but this is just one of many things this franchise needs to do to try to get things pointed in the right direction. And maybe for Giants fans, it's an indication that they know that they have a lot to do, and they're starting somewhere. I guess that's the message. Hey, folks, we know we suck. We know we got a lot of work to do. We got to start somewhere, so we're going to send Jason Garrett packing. Now, we'll see what else they do between now and the start of the 2021 season. And it's still not over. 22. It's still not over for the Giants, but 3-7 the way they looked last night, I think that we're getting very close to stick fork in them time, Charean.
It's such weird timing to me, Mike. Really weird. And he probably deserved to be fired based on what they've done. 26 games he was there, 30 points only once. They're averaging 18.9 points a game after averaging 17.5, which was 31st in the NFL last season. So they can't score points. And I really haven't seen Daniel Jones get better, whether that's on Jason Garrett or whether that's just Daniel Jones isn't very good. But weird timing to me. And the only thing I can think, Freddie Kitchens is going to call the plays the rest of the season. He's a senior offensive assistant. Maybe they want to see what Freddie Kitchens can do with this offense. Can he make it better? Is he the answer there for offensive coordinator? And they'll get a chance over the rest of the season to find that out. As you said, I think it is looking more toward 2022 now. We're not very good. We're 3-7. We're not going to make the postseason. Another wasted season. Let's go find out if Daniel Jones can be better with a different play caller. But I'll give Jason Garrett this. He doesn't like trick plays. He pulled everything out of the book yesterday. He had the throw to Andrew Thomas, which I thought was very creative and got a touchdown out of that. And he hates trick plays. And I thought he did some things to try to get the offense moving. Unfortunately for him, it just didn't work out.
And, it could be it's a last gasp to try to turn it around this year as well. Maybe they look at their team and say, we're not untalented. We just need a shock to the system. We need something to try to wake this up and make something happen. And teams have made changes like that in the past, and it's been the impetus for something big. I think back to 2012. What did the Ravens do in December? They fired Cam Cameron as offensive coordinator, promoted Jim Caldwell, and went on to win the Super Bowl that year. Now, I think it would be beyond shocking if the Giants would have that same kind of a bump with Freddie Kitchens, but you just get to the point where you have to do something. Primetime game, 15 days to get ready, and to look as bad as they look. This just feels like John Mara, the owner of the team, wanting something to be done. And there's not much you can do to still preserve your desire to try to get to the playoffs. You fire your coach, you are giving up. Head coach, you're giving up. You fire Dave Gettleman now, what's the point in that other than to just throw someone's head to the fan base and say, okay, fine, we'll find a new GM in the offseason. But a point that I've made as it relates to many teams, but it's particularly relevant to the New York teams because right now the GMs of both franchises, Jets and Giants, I would call embattled. Although Joe Douglas of the Jets, I think he gets cover from the presence of the Giants and Dave Gettleman, but I think both of those GMs are or should be in trouble. But the problem is when you bring in a new GM and you already have a coach, you have people out of sync, people out of whack. The new GM carries around in his pocket a list of the coaches he's been building for his entire career as coaches he would hire, and he's going to want his own coach, unless coincidentally the coach that he inherits is one of the coaches he was always going to hire. So it's a bad situation to move on from the GM and keep the coach. And I'm not advocating firing everyone. I don't know what I'm advocating for the Giants, but the reality is they have to do something because whatever they're doing isn't working. They haven't won a playoff game since winning the Super Bowl 10 years ago. Right now, the franchise is lost. Right now, the franchise is adrift, and they really got some work to do. And firing Jason Garrett is by no means the end. It's the beginning. And where they go from here, a lot of it's going to depend on what happens for the next 7 games and how far John Mara, the owner of the team, wants to go when it comes to telling people goodbye for good.
I overestimated the Giants, Mike, before the year started. I thought they were going to win the division. I liked what they did in the offseason. I thought they had a good draft. I thought they did well in free agency. And to me, it was just a matter of Daniel Jones stepping up, of Saquon Barkley being healthy, which we now know he hasn't done since his rookie season. And Daniel Jones, frankly, just hasn't looked like a franchise quarterback. So now I'm thinking this looks more like a team that's in rebuilding mode rather than a team that's ready to step up and win right away, because you got to go out and find a quarterback. And whether it's trading for one of those veteran guys or drafting one next year, I think they're going to be in the market for a quarterback no matter who they have at GM, no matter who they have at head coach. I think in a way they're sort of starting over. But I'll say this about Jason Garrett. I questioned how good he was as a head coach. I have no question about how good he is as a play caller, as an offensive coordinator, because he did that for 8 seasons in Dallas. But think about the quarterbacks that he had. He had Tony Romo and he had Dak Prescott. And he did really well with those two guys. They were number 1 in total offense a couple times, up there in the top 5 in the rankings. With a good quarterback, Jason Garrett can call a good game. They can score points. That wasn't his problem in Dallas. So I think he can get it done with a good quarterback. I think Daniel Jones is a big part of the problem in New York right now.
And I think what they have to do is just pull the plug on Daniel Jones, and that means potentially pulling the plug on Dave Gettleman, the guy who drafted him. And look, they never should have taken Saquon Barkley 2nd overall. And I know that everybody thought Saquon Barkley was going to be special, but I'd like to think we've gotten to the point that unless we are damn sure that this is going to be Adrian Peterson, Jim Brown, Barry Sanders, Emmitt Smith, and you don't know what a guy's durability is going to be at the next level until he gets to the next level. You are taking a calculated and very real risk that you're getting a guy who's going to be injured all the time because of the position, not because of the guy, but because of the position. The position entails throwing your body into a wall of strong, large, fast humans who are moving in the opposite direction you are moving, and it is going to inflict damage on the human anatomy. And that's what's happened with Saquon Barkley. I mean, hell, they could have had Josh Allen in 2018, and not that Josh Allen this year is playing as well as we thought, but they'd be in a better position overall if they had had Josh Allen and groomed Josh Allen and developed Josh Allen. Now they're not developing Daniel Jones to the place where it's good enough and it's time for them to move on. And that's it. It's that simple. They have to move on from him. Then they have to decide who the GM is going to be. They have to decide whether it's going to be a GM that is going to want his own coach or if they can find a GM who is fine with Joe Judge. And when that person says it, they mean it. And they're not just saying what they have to say to get the job. And then they'll worry later about undermining the coach and hiring the guy that the new GM really wants, which happens from time to time. So good luck to the Giants. It's not going to be easy to get out of this mess. And I will add this. As Joe Judge said several weeks ago, the fish stinks from the head down, and he's absolutely right. But the head of the fish in New York, Charean, is ownership. Ownership is involved. Ownership is very involved. And Sims and I were talking about this earlier today. I think we were talking about it during a break. But Chris Mara is actually the VP of player personnel. They are like Jerry and Stephen Jones light with the Mara family. And they're brothers, not father-son, right? Chris and John, have I lost my mind? Chris and John are brothers, I believe. But that just shows you what a low profile they keep. They have the big spoon in the stew, but it's not as conspicuous as it is in Dallas. At least Stephen and Jerry will stand there and take the heat. They'll take the accountability for the bad decisions that they make when they make bad decisions. The Maras try to hide behind the curtain a little bit, but they're very involved. And as Jed York said 5 years ago, you can't fire the owner. So that's the common thread over the last 10 years, and I think that gets overlooked because they do try to stay in the background, especially when things aren't going well.
Well, and they do have a big hand in that organization. There's no question about that. And you see John Mara talk when it's time to talk, and he's probably talks second most of any owner in the NFL to Jerry Jones, and he usually has something to say when he does talk. So yeah, they're very involved in that organization, and it does go from the head down of the fish. And they need to find a coach that they really like and stick with that coach. And if that's Joe Judge, then stick with Joe Judge. Don't be changing coaches all the time. But they need a Bill Parcells type coach who they think they can win with, and to stick with him and not keep changing. But you got to have the coach and you got to have the quarterback to win in this league, as we all know. They may or may not have the coach. They certainly don't have the quarterback.
There was actually some talk back in 2017 after Jerry Reese was fired that Chris Merritt could potentially be the GM, but that did not happen. He doesn't want to be a candidate for the full-time position. Yeah, they don't want to have their name on the line the way that the Joneses have their name on the line. And there are plenty of owners out there who will say, I don't have anything to do with the football operation. And the truth is, they do. They just use the coach and the GM and the other members of the football operations staff as the cover for their meddling. They don't want it to be obvious they're meddling, but they're meddling. And with the Maras, they're clearly meddling. They're just not as notorious about it as Jerry and Stephen Jones.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.